On Friday, I did my elementary school class visit here at Corpus Christi, and I brought something for show and tell. This is a magic wand from the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Hermione Granger wand, for those who are interested. And I asked the question, if God gave you a magic wand and granted you one wish, what would you wish for? What would be the one thing you would ask of the Lord? Would it be something positive, point, poof, a unicorn? Or something negative to get rid of, point at COVID and poof, all gone? I wonder what the one thing you would ask of the Lord would be. Or maybe I just read your mind and all you want is a unicorn and for COVID to be gone. Well, I asked the kids, and they gave great answers, of course. Some were lighthearted and funny, like a boy who wants to turn his house into a Lego water park. Another just wants to become Elon Musk. And some were obviously more heartfelt and serious. One girl, she just wants all sin to be gone. And there was one girl who, with a look of fear on her face, whispered to me that all she wants, her one wish, is for her mother's cancer to go away. My heart really went out to this little girl. I could tell this was the one wish she had been asking from God, the one thing that she wanted. And there was a fear of the real possibility that this unanswered prayer could become a reality and she could feel abandoned by God, that he didn't answer this one wish she had. You know, feeling abandoned by God, it's something all of us experience in this dark world. Dr. Bob Schutz calls it a wound of abandonment. And it began in the Garden of Eden. We remember Lucifer, he was the first one to reject and abandon God in heaven. And he left heaven and he went on this diabolical mission to earth to get us to reject and abandon God as well. And he was successful. Father Hamilton last week shared about how the wound of rejection is something in our lives. And this week we're going to talk about the wound of abandonment. And the painful message of the wound of abandonment, if we can really listen to it, it's threefold. It's I'm all alone, no one cares, no one understands. Adam and Eve were the first to hear this painful message, and all of us as children of Adam and Eve have heard this message in various ways. Some people here have heard this message through big wounds of abandonment, such as the death of a loved one, or the heartbreak of divorce, or not being protected when you get abused or bullied. These can be big wounds of abandonment that send a really painful message that you're all alone, no one cares, no one understands. And all of us, myself included, have many smaller wounds of abandonment due to things like getting lost in a crowd when you're really young, or a broken friendship, or having to self-isolate during COVID. Or just unanswered prayers, and still the same message. You're all alone, no one cares, no one understands. That can still hurt. Now, the reason why I'm revealing this is because we need to take a look at the common ways we react to this wound, the common ways we try to cope or heal with it. The first way, and I'll use this magic wand again, the first way we try to deal with the wound of abandonment is control. Control. We take control of the situation. Think Harry Potter. He learned different incantations at Hogwarts to control this magic wand so he could get what he wanted. Well, we do the same thing, don't we? Control. We learn how to say different things or do different actions to try to control our situation. It makes sense, right? We don't want to hear the message ever that you're all alone, no one cares, no one understands. So we take control of the situation. That's what Adam and Eve did. They controlled the situation. They grasped at the tree. They took control. And that's what we can do as well. Have you ever asked yourself, why is it so tempting to try to control and use other people, especially your loved ones? Or why your loved ones try to fix you? Have you ever wondered at a deeper level what's really happening? Well, at a deep level of the heart, there's an attempt to cover up the wound of abandonment. We don't want to hear that message that you're alone, that no one cares, no one understands, so we control the situation. But we know controlling the situation, just covering over a wound, doesn't heal. We know that to be true. Eventually, it gets exposed or infected. Eventually, we get frustrated. We try to control the situation, and it doesn't work out. So the other reaction, on the other extreme, is just to throw away the magic wand, just to say, I'm done with it, and we run away. We run away from our problems, whether that's a relationship or a difficulty we might have in our own personal lives. The common reaction is just to run away. That's what Adam and Eve did. They ran away from their problems, and that's what we can do as well. We can run away to things like drinking, drugs, binging on social media, and a whole bunch of other addictions. You ever wonder why it's so tempting just to run away and hide? Or do you ever wonder why your loved ones are so closed off from being vulnerable and really sharing what they're struggling with? At a deeper level of the heart, the reason is we're trying to run away from our problems. It makes sense, right? We don't want the pain from the wound of abandonment that you're all alone, no one cares, no one understands, so we just try to run away. Okay, take a deep breath. I'm only revealing this. I'm only exposing this wound of abandonment because I've got good news. I've got really good news for some people. There is a doctor here in our parish. He's an expert in the wound of abandonment. And he has medicine that can actually heal us. All of you have heard of this doctor's name before. At least a couple people here, I'm confident you actually know him as well. Many of you have received this medicine, but I don't know how many people have actually applied it and received healing. Look at the cross. That's where our doctor went 2,000 years ago to become an expert in the wound of abandonment. Look at the cross. Did Jesus control others or run away? He could have. He was all powerful. He could have just run away to heaven. But no, he wanted to become an expert in the wound of abandonment. And he experienced the full pain. My God, why have you abandoned me? And he went into the darkness of hell so that no one could ever say, God, where are you? I'm alone. Now look at the cross again. Now look beneath. That's where Jesus is right now. That's where our doctor is right now. That's where he's living, in the tabernacle. He comes to us as medicine. He wants to heal our wounds, especially the wound of abandonment. He's there 24/7. Most of the time, he's abandoned, waiting for you and for me. And Jesus has been freely giving this medicine for over 2,000 years, and for some people, it really does heal. It really does transform their life. And that's why I'm here. I would not be here if it were not for the Eucharist. I would not be here if I had not really met Jesus, and he's changed my life. Back to the magic wand. Okay, when I grew up, I really thought prayer was kind of like a magic wand. It's like I say prayers, and I try to get what I wish. I remember one time in grade 12 at Vancouver College, I wanted a brand new car to drive down to university in California. My dad's like, you're getting a used car at best. I'm like, no, I want a new car. I pray to God, God, give me a new car. I try to control the situation, use my mom to convince my dad, give me this car. I want a new car. I'm praying to God. Guess what? My prayer was granted. I won the top prize of the Vancouver College Mayfair, brand new car. I'm like, hey, this is a good deal with God. I tell him what I want, and he gives it to me. Well, guess what? You keep trying to do that, and it's going to fail. I drive that brand new car to university. Hey, God, I want you to fix my golf game. That's not working. I'm praying, fix my golf game. No. Eventually, prayer doesn't work. I give up, throw the magic wand away, and the story continues. If God gave me a magic wand, what would be the wish? Fix my golf game. I want to turn pro. Eventually, I gave up on him. And then, the common reactions, trying to control the situation, starting to use other people for my own pursuits, and then running away from my problems. When I'm honest about why I got into drinking, drugs, and the whole experience of university, if I'm honest about my situation, I'm running away from my problems. I'm running away from my problems. But in all of this, when you run away from your problems, you're running further into darkness. And as I shared 2 weeks ago, that's what I did. I got to the point where I'm no longer going to play pro golf. I'm done with it. And I'm wide awake in the middle of the night, and that thought comes, is it even worth living? I am all alone in this moment. I really believed in that moment, no one cares, no one understands. And it didn't matter how many times my parents told me, we care, we understand. No, I rejected that. No one cares for me, no one understands. But as we heard in today's gospel, the people who sat in darkness have seen a great light. And for those who sat in the region and shadow of death, light has dawned. I was truly living in darkness and in the region and shadow of death. I was in a state of mortal sin for 5 years. That is literal darkness and spiritual death. But thanks be to God, Jesus intervened in my life. And I wish I could share the experience I had of receiving Jesus that first time in Holy Communion. The first time my soul was in a state of grace and I actually received Jesus into my body with faith that he could heal me. I wish I could share the experience with you, but I can't. But what I do know, and what I can say for certain, is that I really felt Jesus enter into my body. And all of a sudden, the darkness was scattered. And really, the doctor was in my soul. I really felt Jesus in my body. And all of a sudden, the promise, I'm always with you, I'll never leave you, I'll never abandon you. It wasn't just words on a Bible, it was something in my soul. I really met Jesus in my soul. And the Eucharist was no longer just some routine of bread that I receive at Mass. No, it was real Jesus in my body, healing me. That's what happened. And now as a priest, if you ask me this question, Father Richard, if God gave you a magic wand and granted you one wish, what would be that wish? Any guesses? What would be the one thing I would ask of the Lord? Well, I actually asked the kids this question in Corpus Christi. Some said, you would wish to become the Pope. I said, incorrect. Others, you would wish to become the greatest golfer in the world. I said, maybe. But there was one boy, his name is Declan O'Brien, grade 2. he actually said the answer that had been on my heart all week long. I'd been praying with today's responsorial psalm. There's one thing I ask of the Lord, for this I long, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, that I may behold the beauty of the Lord. I'd been praying with this responsorial psalm that we all sang today, all week long. And the prayer of my heart all week long was, Jesus, the one thing I want, all I want is just to be with you, especially in my dark times. That's all I want, just to be with you, especially in my dark times. I had never told anyone this prayer except Jesus. Declan O'Brien, in front of his grade 2 class, said, Father Richard, I think your one wish is for Jesus to be with you always, especially in your darkest times. Yeah. Well, Jesus spoke through that kid. Yeah, Jesus is saying, I've heard you all week long. And I go to the Eucharist as much as I can throughout the day. That's the place where I know Jesus is always with me, even in my darkest times. And we have an adoration chapel here that all of you can go to any time of the day, 24/7. He's waiting there. Don't try to control the situation. Don't try to run away from your problems. Run to Jesus. He wants to enter into your darkness. So if God gave you a magic wand and granted you one wish, what would be the one thing you would ask of the Lord? Whether you're grieving the loss of a loved one right now, or the heartbreak of divorce, or you're a child praying for the cure of your mom's cancer, or you're just someone suffering from the painful messages that no one really cares, no one understands, and you might feel all alone. The one thing that always works, the one wish that is always granted, is for Jesus to be with you always, even in your darkest times. That's why he gives us the Eucharist. And Jesus promised us in John 6, those who eat my flesh and drink my blood have eternal life, and I will raise them on the last day. And if you stay close to Jesus, if you receive him devoutly in Holy Communion, if you frequent the sacraments, one day, whether you're someone grieving the loss of a loved one, or you're a child whose mother has passed away, one day you will see Jesus face to face, and you will be with your loved ones forever in heaven, where there is no darkness at all. That's what Jesus promises. And that's why the one thing we can ask of the Lord, for this I long, for Jesus to be with me always, even in my darkest days.